It's what you see today is a pure result of a fundamental breakdown in the family. Now, the reality is it's been like that for a very long time. Sadly, in minority communities, there is an abundance, an uncomfortable abundance of single moms raising children. There's no father in the household for whatever reason. Yet sometimes you have kids with no father and no mother, and they're being raised by grandma or grandpa. And I've met a many young kids who were being raised by grandma and grandpa who were now much wiser and were doing a phenomenal job of trying to raise these kids, but they're not their parents, so there's always a struggle there. But the breakdown occurs there when you don't have two parents and structure in the household. That's the beginning of the end, and things can unravel from there unless you have a strong parent or strong mother like my mom, who realized she was in a compromised situation. So what my mom did essentially was she had to play both sides. And she knew that if she got me from both sides, I would never quite realize that she was alone. So it was kind of like the lone sniper, but he just has two guns set up at different positions. And the person getting taken fire is like, wait, I guess there's two guys out there right now putting rounds on me. But it was only the one guy running back and forth. That was my mom running back and forth, because she knew she had to do that. So, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in most households. And sadly, it happens predominantly in Black households. And it's very sad to see. And of course, it happens in white households, but the facts are the facts. And in white households, there is a much lower incidence of the single parent household. But you look at that and you look what that turns into, and it ultimately leads to a lack of respect for authority. And that is really, people think it's only the police. No, these kids that don't respect police, they're not respecting the principal at their school. They're not respecting their teachers. They're not respecting the guy who owns the little bodega on the corner. They're not respecting the business owner. They're not respecting anyone. So it's not just a disrespect of people. There's a I don't want to say it's a misconception, but there is a little bit of an ideology that these young Black men have no respect for the police. Guess what? They have no respect for anyone in authority. That's just the truth. It's not just the cops, but when it comes to the police, of course, there is part of the culture that is ingrained where the police are bad, the police are against them, police, whatever. There is no in let me say the Caucasian culture. I've grown up, I've seen both sides, I've lived both sides, I've had the let me say the unique experience of seeing both sides and living both sides. The white culture doesn't have music that glorifies shooting the police and F the police. That you see that as part of the Black culture. And I'm not
although that music has like transcended everything. I grew up listening to that, and I know Chris did too.
Yeah. Yes. I did. Yeah. I listened to NWA. I listened to Ice Cube. I listened to Biggie Smalls. I listened to it all. However, I listened to it, but the reality of where I was living wasn't that. I was living in a neighborhood. It wasn't a nice neighborhood. It was a blue collar town. You had electricians, plumbers, hardworking iron workers, union people. It was all white people, but these were all people. No one had a new car. Everyone was driving an old beat up pickup truck that on the weekend they were fixing the carburetor just so it would work for the next week of work. That's where I grew up. It wasn't, it was a nice town, but it wasn't rich by any means. And they were hardworking people. So I could live in that neighborhood and live in that town and, sit at a dinner table where, a Navy veteran and his hardworking wife that's a paralegal trying to make ends meet were giving me a meal, whatever. And I'd be like, hey, I'm going to the mall. And as I back my car out of the driveway, blast Biggie Smalls on the way to the mall. All right. And then you get to the mall and then you're like walking by the Gap and Banana Republic and, you're like, okay, it was very, very different. But when you are listening to that music, and then you're also living in the neighborhood that they're talking about in the song, and there are actually gangbangers shooting people, there's drug deals happening, there's all these things that are the reality of that music you're just listening to, well, then it becomes your culture. It's not a song you're listening to. That becomes your life. And you become, I don't want to say it engulfs you and takes you up, but you can't, it's all around you. How can you avoid it? So that's the difference that makes the difference. And people, a lot of people say, well, what does that lead to? Well, of course it leads to this disrespect and lack of, not respecting authority. And then that leads to, you have situations go wrong. Now, the reality, as someone who worked the job, who was able to, work in a part of our town that they brought in low-income housing, and that section of low-income housing was predominantly Black. And then we had, the McMansions and the rich white people on the rest of the town, right? And we had some surrounding towns that were predominantly Black. They had gangs, whatever. So we had little dealings with, and we were able, to experience what those towns dealt with on occasion. And the reality is this: you have this, let me say, disrespect for law enforcement, this disrespect for authority that, let me say, somewhat ingrained in them. Oh, the police are out to get you, whatever. But you also saw the outliers in those communities. You also saw the young Black men in those communities that when you pulled them over, hello, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I won't do that again. Yeah, okay. And you're like, okay, this kid is being raised right. Yeah, I don't care if he's being raised by a single mother or whatever. And almost always, I would come to find out that young Black man had a hardworking mom, hardworking dad, and they're, telling him focus on school, focus on the sports, and they had him locked in and squared away. Almost always when I met a nice young man like that, I was like, man, okay, this kid's doing right. Once in a while, single mom, and I would go knock on that door. I would knock on that door and be like, ma'am, hey, you're so-and-so's mom? Yeah. I just talked to him over at the basketball court. Yeah, really? What did he do wrong? I will kill him. I said, he didn't do anything wrong. He actually waved at me when I drove past the basketball court. So I got out of the car and I went over and I had a conversation with him. And he was one of the most respectful young men on that basketball court. And I just wanted to say, you're doing a great job. And she'd be like, yeah, I'm a single mom. I'm working a couple of jobs. And I said, yeah, my mom's the same way. I said, but whatever you're doing with him, you're doing it right. And man, that meant so much to them. A young Black woman trying to raise a young man by himself, that meant so much to them. And I said, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't worry. And look, I made it. I made it out. I made it out of wherever I was, the situation I was in. And look where, and oh man, thank you. Hey, listen, anytime you want to stop and talk to him, go ahead, talk to him. So that has now become this secondary, tertiary thing. And now it's the police are bad. We got to defund the police. Let me tell you something. I've never gone into a Black neighborhood and talked to a Black mother of children who has said, we need less cops in this neighborhood. Never in my life. Never in my life have I talked to a Black grandmother and a Black grandfather trying to raise children, their grandchildren or whatever, in a Black neighborhood riddled with crime. And I've never heard them say, we need less police here. There's too many cops here. Cops are bad. We need less. In fact, they're saying the opposite. You talk to the parents and the mothers in these neighborhoods, they're saying, we need more cops here. This guy, that guy, those guys are drug dealers. These guys are gangs. I don't want my baby. They will say it right to your face. You go to, I've been to town hall meetings in cities across this country, and you would think you're in the Twilight Zone. At these town hall meetings in these major cities, they are there because of 221B Tactical. I've been able to go to these things when I'm donating. When you make a donation to a police department, they usually do it like, the dog and pony show at the town city hall meeting, So I'm sitting in the back with my stuff and one of our guys to, do a donation. But prior to that, you're listening to all the shit going on in the town. And what do you see? You see these Black parents like, we need more cops. This is not good. We need more police. But what do you see on the news that night? defund the police, defund the police. That is not the people in those neighborhoods who are seeing the crime, watching kids get shot. That's not the cry of those people. That's just a political talking point that like, oh, okay. And now what's happening? Now they tried to defund the police. They did, right? And some people were saying abolish the police, the crazies. And look what's happening. Well, you defunded the police, okay? And now because you defunded the police that remained were kind of stressed and strapped. So they're all retiring, leaving early, finding other jobs. So now you have even less police. And then what do you have? You have crime skyrocketing. And guess what neighborhoods are experiencing the most crime and the highest spike in teenagers and young Black men being killed, not by the police, by each other, these neighborhoods where they defunded the police. So like, I'm not a conspiracy guy at all, but I'll tell you this, as a Black man walking through America, I could tell you this. If I didn't like Black people, I would have two ways to go about it. I could just go around and just try to like hurt and kill Black people and, whatever, but I know I'd end up in jail and whatever. Or I could say, you know what, let me do these little things here and there that will ultimately lead to the neighborhoods declining and they kill themselves. Because what's happening in these neighborhoods, Chicago, Baltimore, Philly, the number of young Black men and women killed in a single weekend in these cities would blow you away. But it's never talked about. It's never talked about, and this is all a result of this defund the police movement, the whole phony hands up, don't shoot, which never even happened. And the only people they're hurting, now you start seeing a little bit of it bleeding out. The woman who was running and got abducted and killed, but you start it's bleeding out a little bit. It's not until the crime enters the neighborhoods and people start getting negatively and adversely affected will people start screaming. And look what happened on Martha's Vineyard when they dropped 48 nonviolent people there. They called the National Guard. They're like, we diversity. We love diversity. We love diversity. We want all people to come here. National Guard, get these guys out of here tonight, get them out. You're like, wait, wait a second. Now, let me ask you, if these same people all of a sudden, because of defund the police and all this stuff, if these same people had some gangbangers starting to creep into their neighborhoods and commit crimes, they would freak out. They would freak the F out. And that's the next progression that is, of course, bound to happen because it starts in the cities and then it goes into the suburbs. We all know that. No one's dumb. So this whole defund the police movement has had such negative ramifications on the inner cities and Black people predominantly, but now it's going to start to spread. And this is when people are going to start now saying, whoa, hold on. This is probably now, of course, you have the president and these other politicians saying, well, we never quite said defund the police. We said, reallocate funds. I'm like, come on, man, there's YouTube. I just watched a video of you saying defund the police. Now you're trying to say you didn't say defund the, like, come on. Like, do you think we're stupid?
Well,